One of the things I love about having a YouTube channel and having so many viewers and friends online and whatnot send me things is I get to see things like this that I didn't even know existed from a maker I didn't even know his name. So that's the joy of doing this for me, because let's face it, I don't get many views. I don't have a lot of subscribers and I make basically no money. Okay. So I am not in it for the fame or the fortune. That's for damn sure. So let's talk about this Hathaway knives Saros. This is the Honeycomb Saros. Here's a little bit of information that I'll probably touch on a lot of it, but there you go. From Gabe Hathaway. This is it's a very interesting knife. The more I have handled it and looked at it and really just spent time with it, every time I pick it up and handle it, I learned something new about it. Quite frankly, it is an integral design. And this is really his first knife model. He's a relatively new maker, started in 2019 was his first knife, the first knife he ever made. For Hathaway was in 2019. Started earlier on when he was a little younger. Had a coal forge that he made for himself. His, I think his uncle gave him some old railroad steel to make as a scales, and he beat the hell out of that in his coal forge in the backyard, I'm assuming. And found a piece of metal out in the field and turned that into a blade. And that was his first knife he ever made. Fast forward to today, he is making the Saros. There is an extra large Saros, which is a little bit bigger, obviously. It's a good thing we don't have an extra medium, because that would be confusing, right? There's an extra large, which is larger than a large. But then there's an extra small, which is smaller than a small. So if there was an extra medium, would it be bigger than the medium or smaller than the medium? See, these are the weird things. I said that quiet part out loud. These are the things that keep me up at night, and I zone off during the day between meetings and ponder. Yeah. Just lost some subscribers from that one, I'm sure. So that's okay. Let's dive back into the knife. It is an integral design. Everything here is made by him other than the blade steel. He did not make the Magna Cut. And the ceramic balls in the races. So he didn't make the races or the balls or the detent. Everything else, the pivot, the over travel stop, the pocket clip, the hardware, all of that he made himself in-house, which I think is really cool. Okay? There are some really cool things about this knife, and there's one little flaw that I don't understand, but I brought it up to the owner, who is a friend of Gabe's, and he's going to talk to him, and we are going to try to coordinate getting him on the EDC hour with Alex and I, and we can talk to him more about things. So let's dive into the specs since I've rambled too long now. It's 4 inches closed, 7 inches overall, with a 3.02 inch blade. 2.85 inch cutting edge. It's a bit thick behind the edge, but it still cuts at 0.032. And if we zoom in, you can see that really deep bevel. It is thick behind the edge, and it doesn't slice and dice. But this is made more for minimalist EDC carry to get through everything you might need. It's not really made for slicing tomatoes. Okay. Blade thickness starts out a bit thick at 0.165 also. It weighs in at 2.47 ounces with an overall thickness of 0.365. You can see the anodizing blue and bronze. It's got wear marks. The owner has been carrying this for a number of years. He got this in 2013, in December of 2013. So he's only been carrying it for like a year and a half. This is his main daily carry knife. This is his last name, the owner. He asked Gabe Hathaway to put his last name on the pocket clip. So I guess that means you can't really sell it, which is okay. I think it's a good looking knife. Proprietary hardware. And this one, the pivot did start to come a little loose. I was able to just tighten it with my finger. So that may be something that this one needs to come apart, put some Loctite in there, and put it back together. So just a little thing to note. Now, the concern or problem I have with this is the lock bar. So right now, the detent is a little bit weak. I can fail it if I try. However, if I go to open it with some authority, it rockets out and it feels a lot different than a lot of knives that I have. Its flipping action is really nice. I wish the detent was a little bit stronger. Now, the lock bar, there's a little bit of lock because the lock bar isn't really touching. I mean, it's touching, but it's not fully engaged. It's almost as if it was filed just a hair short or machined just a hair short. So there's always a tiny bit of lock rock where the blade is, if I zoom back out, so the blade wants to kind of close ever so slightly, but you can feel it at times, depending on where the lock bar engages and where your finger is. So it's not much. It's very minimal, fractions of an inch that I couldn't measure or tell you, but it's a feeling. And if you guys have ever experienced rock, you know what I'm talking about. Other than that, it's great. It's cool. It's different and unique. It's not really something I'm attracted to with my personal preferences and tastes, but I can see where the owner is because it is pretty cool. Now I do have a piece of paper over here. I will show you that it does cut. It does kind of, it's not super slicey clean cuts, but it is sharp as heck, and it is going, that was my fault there. It is going to do the job, okay? So, these are like $400, I think. Eek. Don't quote me on that. I'm going to put his website down below. There is a fancy one there right now. That's the XL version, I think. That's $1,200. Maybe these are $600. Forget I even said the price. Go look on your own. I try not to talk about price because I didn't write it down. So what was I talking about? I don't know what to tell you. So he also makes other things. There's some pry bars on there on his website. There are titanium rings if you're into that sort of thing. Here it is with the Sharpie. There is the XL version that I mentioned. There is also a bunch of swag, man. The dude's got hats and t-shirts and hoodies. Like, I got a logo now, as you can see. Do I need to do hats and shirts and hoodies? Probably not, because nobody will buy it, so why do it? But, if you're into that sort of thing, he's got that. I like how he puts the H in the pivot, the H on the scale. All in all, I think for just a few years into the company, he's doing some good stuff, and it can only get better from here. I remember looking at Odin Customs when he first kind of started a couple years in, and he has really come a long way. Odin Custom has. And I like to think partially because of some of the critique I've given him. I talked to him a lot about his pocket clips. This pocket clip works really, really well in the pocket. And it is a fairly deep carry. You're going to carry in about that far. which is great. No problem. There's a little bit to grab onto. So all in all, I think it's a cool knife. It's not really my taste and style. And I think it's probably just this example with the lock bar issue. I gotta believe that is a one-off issue that probably does not exist on the others, okay? So don't ever take what I say as, oh my God, don't buy the knife. I mean, I'll tell you, if there's something so, oh my God, don't buy the knife, I'll tell you. I don't think that's this. If you're into smaller integral knives, this is an option, and it's a good option if you like the style. The action on it is something special. I really can't put my finger on it. I wish the detent was a little stronger, but it just fires and it feels different than most knives. So can't really explain it, but there you go. The Hathaway knives, Saros, the Honeycomb Saros. I think the regular one is 400. This one's probably 600, and the XL is 1200. But go check his website and keep an eye out. We may get him on the EDC hour to talk more about him and his history and whatnot. So thanks for watching, everybody. And Mr. Man, thank you for sending this in. I do greatly, greatly appreciate it. It has been a long time, as he says in his letter to me. He's a long time listener and first time knife sender for a reviewer. So it's the first time he's ever sent a knife to anybody. So I am really honored by that as well. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you have made it this long, comment something down below.